We opened up with Ric Flair in the ring. Strange opener, wasn't it? Ric Flair in the ring, basically saying that he is God, calling out Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan basically talks about Ric Flair. He wants Ric Flair to be a lead judge in the gut check thing with the new talent.
There's two things I want to say about this. The first thing is, there was kind of Ric Flair was hinting maybe a match, but Hogan stood his ground saying, no, we're not having this. I've got different plans for you to work together. Now Bischoff's gone, blah, blah, blah. And the second thing I'm going to say is, woo!
Exactly. And Flair being put in this position to work with the younger talent, you might as well make use out of a guy like Ric Flair and actually make him work with the younger talent, whether it's just associating himself with younger talent or actually working with them in general, rather than possibly having a match with Hogan at Summerversary, which we hope does not happen.
Woo!
Pretty much sums up your thoughts on the opener then.
Woo!
Exactly. After the opening segment, after Ric Flair has been put as the lead judge in this gut check challenge, we get Velvet Sky and Miss Teschmacher, the two women who could be conceived as the #1 contenders. The two are kind of fighting over this #1 contendership spot now, versus Gail Kim and Madison Rayne. It was pretty much a bog standard knockouts match. I imagine with how they did this segment, they're probably going to do Brooke versus Gail at the pay-per-view after Brooke beat Gail Kim with her own finish. That's the third week in a row she's had the Gail Kim's number, isn't it? The Knockouts champion. Surely that leads to a pay-per-view match now for Brooke.
Well, look at this. It's a knockout match that I was actually into in some way. Yes, it had Madison Rayne to look past because she was only there to fill up like a tag team. But the match itself, it was pretty good, especially with Tess and Kim. I really enjoyed that. They build up to the end and you give Tess the win. I just thought that was a nice way of doing it. Tess is looking like a strong knockout, so I'm looking forward to a possible match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and they did need some fresh blood in there. They've now got it, so I'm more than happy with a Brooke versus Gail Kim feud now. Just someone new in there who hasn't yet been Knockouts champion. After that, we get a segment involving RVD and Storm, and I would have thought with the main event of the show being one of the matches that have been announced here, that probably it should have been the opener, even though I thought RVD did come across as really egotistical.
RVD and Storm?
RVD, did I say RVD and Storm? I meant RVD and Bobby Roode. I'm thinking, I love James Storm so much that I imagine him being in these segments, and yeah, it was a John Laurinaitis spot. Sorry, you take over.
And again, with Rob Van Dam, yeah, he comes out with all this big-headedness, builds himself up. I do see why he's doing it, because he has done a lot in the business, and he is trying to make himself look good when he goes and gets someone as big as Bobby Roode. But the whole first part of the segment was already going on, and then Roode comes out and he actually says, I heard you saying how big you are, but you haven't gone against the best yet.
I mean, RVD, I don't mind RVD, it's just the fact he comes out there and he just sounds so egotistical and like an arsehole on the mic. He's kind of like he's trying to be a heel or so. I just don't get it. I mean, the segment did its job in that it established 2 matches for the night. I just felt that maybe this should have been the opener and had a little bit more time focused on TNA's main feud right now, which is the world title feud involving RVD and Bobby Roode. I thought this really should have opened the show, in my opinion, as it did lead to the announcement of the main event.
It was a clever way of doing it. They picked their own opponent. I did like that aspect, obviously. But the thing I did like about it is that you had a good match being made between Roode and Anderson. We've seen it before, but good match. Anderson in the main event. But then Rob Van Dam is facing Jeff Hardy. They're thinking face versus face. I know Jeff Hardy's a good wrestler, but I don't know. Face versus face, whatever.
Yeah, well, we'll just, I guess, remember, we've got 2 matches announced, and it kind of just felt like it should have opened the show for me. But then we got onto our weekly TV title defense, because rather than putting the TV title just on pay-per-views, they've decided, hell, let's try and give this belt some meaning and have it defended every week. And we had Devon versus Rob Terry. The match went on for about 2.5 minutes. It was kind of just a meh match, really. It was all there, really, to set up Robbie E versus Devon feud, wasn't it, really? And I just I don't want to see Robbie E go after the TV title again.
Rob Terry, I was waiting for him to see him wrestle, but this match wasn't about him. It was about Robbie E. And the fact they're going to try and continue this feud instead of giving the D1 versus another wrestler, I think it's a bit of a waste of the time. We're about to see a feud that no one really cares about, so I don't see why TNA are shoving this feud back into our faces.
Yeah, I just wonder how many more opponents they have lined up for Devon in this weekly title defense thing. But there we go. Our main event of the night was RVD versus Jeff Hardy. Unfortunately, we missed a lot of this match because our feed cut out at the time, so we don't really know how good or bad the match was itself. But we saw the ending when Roode come out and inadvertently allowed RVD to win the match by hitting Jeff Hardy with the title belt accidentally.
That was kind of a clever way of doing it, because obviously Rude was just there to try and screw Rob Van Dam, but it backfired, and it did warm up the event, giving Rob Van Dam the victory there. And I just thought it was quite clever, and I was satisfied with it.
Yeah.
Good way of finishing the match up.
After this, we had a segment where Bully Ray basically bullies Jeremy Borash into the ring. He's pretty much, well, just pretty much bullying Jeremy Borash until Austin Aries comes out, and they kind of do this whole, bully and small guy standing up to the bully thing, where Bully Ray sort of picks on his size, and that's Austin Aries pretty much just goes mental on Bully Ray, and then Bully Ray they gets broken up by security, and then Bully Ray gets his shot in. So this segment really made both guys look strong, and it is a feud which I'm interested in, and I do want to see them have a match at Sacrifice.
I liked how they warmed this up, the Borash thing, then obviously a face come out to the rescue, then Bully Ray get into Aries' face, spit in his face, really warming up, really get Aries to actually show strength, show bravery against Bully Ray. They brawl, but obviously he gets laid out, and it definitely warms it up, and I do like how this is built up for their feud going up to the pay-per-view.
And it's why Bully Ray is one of the best heels in the business right now. He gets so much healing, and it's a classic bully and small guy storyline. So I think a lot of people out there can relate to that, including myself, as I was bullied at school, but I can kind of relate to it too. So there we go. I'm watching again. That's 2-1 to me in botches. Angle, Daniels, and Kazarian versus AJ Samoa and Magnus. Combining two feuds here. They got Angle versus AJ, which just kind of just happened out of nowhere. We didn't really get any acknowledgement on the last show because it was an open fight night. So I thought they would have made a segment maybe on this show as to why they're having a match at Sacrifice, because they're just having a match kind of out of nowhere, really.
They did have that match tease last week, but that wasn't really enough to make a match. So the fact that they just diving straight into this, it was kind of randomly out the blue. But they are two great wrestlers to go against each other. So even though they haven't really got explanation, it should be a good match. It's
kind of like the CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan of TNA, Angle versus AJ Styles. You don't really need them to feud. They can have a great match. We also got the tag challenges and the tag champs in there as well. The match was decent. I didn't think it got enough time for a 6-man match, but the match was pretty good. AJ Styles gets the pin on Kazarian. They're still teasing that Angle face turn, aren't they, with him refusing Daniels and Kaz's help. And I do wonder what they're going to do with Angle's character from now on. But we do know one thing, and that is Christopher Daniels next week is going to reveal AJ's secret on the go-home show for Sacrifice. That should be interesting, even though she probably said that for after Sacrifice when AJ's had his match with Angle, unless they're working some kind of angle with that match with Angle. I said Angle a lot of times there, didn't I?
It could be, yeah, but the match itself, I did enjoy it. It did flow in a nice way. I did want the heels to maybe get a kick in here, but the way they built up towards the end, Samoa Joe, who was obviously the big guy there, and AJ in the ring getting the win, very nicely warmed up. Then we get the Daniels getting on the mic after Angle was kind of bullying him in a bit. But then it was definitely warmed up. He gave us something to look forward to next week. And hopefully they can wrap up this up and give us what we need to know and then move on to their match at the pay-per-view.
And also the tag team feud looks pretty decent right now. I would look forward to seeing Kaz and Daniels versus Samoa Joe and Magnus at the pay-per-view. I do look forward to seeing that. After that, we had the gut check segment, which that segment before was building up to. You had Al Snow, Ric Flair, and Pritchard in the ring, calling Alex Silva to the ring. This kind of felt like reality TV, didn't it? They're trying to sort of do the whole sort of X Factor / American Idol thing where, they're deciding whether or not they can move on to the next round. They were deciding whether or not Alex Silva got the contract. And they basically tend to have cut a 30-second promo where he kind of talks about his I believe, deceased father. But then Flair tells him, you're not talking to the marks, you're talking to us. And he cuts what was a very passionate promo, and Ric Flair just says, you're in, brother. You're in. These 2 Hall of Fame rings, I don't have them, but just imagine 2 Hall of Fame rings there. Say, you're in. You've got a contract.
Woo! Testify, brother.
Exactly. But I mean, you've got to admit, Alex Silva did look like he had a lot of passion for the promo, and I'm glad I'm glad TNA are bringing in some new talent and at least making them seem like a big deal using the gut check thing. This is why the gut check thing is a good thing when TNA do it correctly.
And the fact they've done this, there was me personally thinks that TNA screwed him up last week.
Yes.
So I was thinking, why would they want to give him another chance after they screwed him over last week? But they gave him another chance. So I'm looking forward to his second match. Hopefully they'll book it correctly. So in a way, I'm thinking maybe they did screw him over, so they should have just stopped it. But the fact they're giving him another chance, I do look forward to seeing who his challenger is and how they book him in the match.
It was quite funny in the sense that it did feel like a sort of reality TV segment on a wrestling show, and I'm glad they're making a big deal out of an OVW guy and Alex Silva as well. It's just nice to see young talent getting some, real promotion on the show.
As long as they don't make it feel like Jersey Shore.
Oh, as long as they don't do that, which I'm sure they won't. Anderson versus Hardy was kind of made out of nowhere for Sacrifice, which kind of projected what may happen in this main event and what we actually saw. Bobby Roode versus Mr. Anderson in a no DQ match. Why? This was no DQ, so we could have that interference to set up the angle. Set up the 4-1 to me now to set up the Anderson and Hardy feud. Really, wasn't it?
Yeah, the match. I wouldn't say it's the greatest, obviously, because the match was the main thing. You did get some offense from Anderson on Roode. The match started outside the ring, got inside the ring, but obviously it led towards the ending of the match, which was the main priority. We had, instead of RVD coming out first, we had Jeff Hardy running in. He ends up getting Anderson checked down, and then obviously I think they get the win.
Basically, RVD. You have Roode get the victory, then RVD comes down, and then Roode basically goes out and hits RVD with the chair. So, again, decent booking in the sense that you made Roode look strong, you made RVD look strong to a degree during the whole night. The whole thing with Anderson and Hardy, you kind of turned Anderson heel. You didn't really get much time to ingest it because they were trying to do so much in this segment, and it just really kind of felt like this sort of heel turn. I'm guessing it was a heel turn. Just went by unnoticed, if you know what I mean.
Well, look at Anderson, and I'm just thinking they still got no proper idea for him. They keep floating about. Yes, he's in the main event. I give him that. They still got no proper long-term idea for him. So bringing him back, yes, it was great for the fans, but he still got no purpose apart from be fitter in feuds. But the main event, it was an okay main event for TNA. And it did fit his purpose going on to the pay-per-view.
I just wish they would, a guy like Anderson who has so much charisma and could be a top guy for TNA, they would give him some direction. It would really help things. Because remember in Immortal when he was just going face, heel, and it kind of really fucked up his character. I don't want to see that happen again here on his return to TNA, on his return to Impact Wrestling. But there we go. Like I said, I didn't think the main event was that great either. It got like 7 minutes, which is a lot less time than usual main events, and it was no DQ, just so you could have this interference in there and for it to be legal and to lead to Bobby Roode winning. So a tad bit of overbooking there, trying to do a little bit too much in one segment, in my opinion. But there we go. What were your thoughts on the show overall, NJ?
Well, I'm going to say this. After going through the review, they did warm up things for the pay-per-view. Some things I just felt weren't that good as they could have been, but the matches were good quality, I would say. The TV title, they're doing something that I don't really like with it now, but hopefully they can change that in the near future. But overall, they did build up each after the match to lead to something. I'm looking forward to Bully Ray and Aries and then the main events all adding up.
I mean, after last week's open fight night, which really didn't have too much to do with the pay-per-view, I really think TNA needed to stamp their foot on the ground here and say, you know, this is what we're setting up for the pay-per-view. And they've done this in some segments. Like I said, the main event segment had a lot going on in it, but it set up something with Hardy and Anderson, even though they announced the pay-per-view match before the match even happened. I mean, there was some good segments tonight. The Aries Bully Ray segment I thought was pretty good. The whole gut check thing, even though it had nothing to do with the pay-per-view, was still generally quite good, as it did add some reality TV elements into the show, and it did at least do some justice in saving Alex Silva, because he didn't look that great because of the booking last week, but this week he did look good because of the booking and the way he had guys like Flair and Al Snow talking about him. So I did enjoy that, and the show to me was kind of, I guess you could say, kind of average, entertainment-wise, not the best, but it was still a decent show. And I do think, in my opinion, they did really need to hammer down that pay-per-view more, rather than maybe advertising for Slammiversary in about a month's and a couple of weeks' time. But there we go. That's just my thoughts. I give it like a C show. It was okay.
A C would be fair, because there really weren't a lot to it apart from pay-per-view build and that, so it could be going towards a C+, but a C would be the very great.
The Going Show could be good though. We got James Storm speaking, we got the secret being revealed. The Going Show could be a better show in my opinion, probably.
It could be. It's got that direction, yes.
So you've heard the thoughts, of course, on this. Make sure, from the British Fist, me and NJ, and I lost the botch challenge by 4 botches to 1. Make sure you comment your thoughts on the show down in that comment section below. And because NJ, you won the botch challenge, you get to do the outro.
Testify. I mean, not testify. Brother, yeah. Okay, people, thank you very much for tuning to this video. All I can say now, from Mr. Parkin and me, NJ, this has been TNA Impact. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Enjoy the show next week. Until next time, people, from Mr. Parkin and me, NJ, I've already said that. But anyway, goodbye.